With the recent legalization of cannabis, the Canadian Western Agribition is reflecting that with a panel at today's Indigenous Ag Summit, and George Robinson was one of the panelists, who is the CEO of Ravensquest. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, well, tell me a little bit first about your company, Ravensquest.
Ravensquest is a publicly traded company that has growing facilities in Markham, Ontario, and out in Edmonton, Alberta. We are fully integrated in that we grow cannabis, process it, and we'll also have our retail sales side. But more importantly, we also have a consulting side, and that's what we're here today to help Indigenous communities understand the complex environment of cannabis and hemp, whether it be growing or actually selling of cannabis.
Why do you think it's so important to reach out to Indigenous communities and kind of include them in this conversation?
Well, we've been at it for 3 years. The very first time that we got into this space was in October of 2015. Why? I think the Indigenous community needs to be a part of it. They've worked with herbal plants their whole lives, I mean, as far as time goes back. So bringing cannabis in as another herbal therapy that we can use, it's a starting point where we can actually take a look at harm reduction and social impact by actually letting the plant actually take back maybe some cures that might be there and relieve people of depression and anxiety without having to go to the pharmacy to get a pharmaceutical drug. So I see it as an opportunity for them to deal with social impact, harm reduction, and then ultimately at the end of it, maybe some economic gain.
There is issues on especially remote communities with mental health. Do you think this kind of really plays into that too?
You know, I think at any times when you've got nothing to do, it doesn't matter who you are, Indigenous or not, there's boredom comes into place, and then you start filling that boredom up. And unfortunately, there are some people, whether it be Indigenous or not, start filling that up with pharmaceutical drugs and alcohol. But if we can take a look at something like cannabis, which can be a plant that says that there's hardly any mechanisms that you can ever OD on it, I'd rather have people using that as a substance rather than the potential of alcohol with a major organ failure or getting into opioids, which could lead to a massive death on any community, but especially the Indigenous community. So let's just find a way that we can leverage this into social impact and then harm reduction.
What are you hearing from First Nations about what they think about bringing the cannabis industry in?
I think that, there's always some stigma attached to it, right? But what I'm starting to find out when I do these type of discussions is that we start to find that when we start peeling back the onion on it and we start taking a look at it, we get past that first part of the stigma. Cannabis is coming at everyone in this country, whether they like it or not. In the Indigenous community, it's coming at them. So I tell those who've got a stigma or have sort of a problem with it, know that it's coming, so take control of it. So I'm asking those community members to, at least if you have harder feelings or poorer feelings towards cannabis, still understand it's going to be in your community. So let's find a way that we can take control of it. But I do believe there's a lot of community members just don't talk about it, but they're using cannabis for lifestyle improvement every single day.
With regards to legalization, it has been a little bit of a slower start because of problems with supply. What are your thoughts on that, especially coming from a production side of things?
I've always promoted for a long time that the demand was going to be much, much higher than anyone would ever think. So I think that's what essentially has just happened. I think on the other side of the problem, us as licensed producers, some of us had out and promoted far too much production that we are capable of doing than we are. Luckily for us, we have our 11,000 kilograms that we can produce, and we know that we can do it because it's already built out. But I think it's a two-pronged issue. Didn't understand demand, and supply was just not anywhere close to that. And I think currently, right now, we're only dealing with about 15 to 20% of the black market. So we still have a ton more capacity that we got to bring online to supply the demand that Canadians are wanting.
And one last question with regards to environmental concerns with pot and packaging, because that is something that some people are concerned about, maybe extra plastics or anything like that. What are your thoughts with your company on that? Single-use
plastic should be banned for the most part. There are some things that we're going to have to use it forever and forever, but single use should be dealt with the right way. Our whole company is designed around environmental and sustainability. We use a lot less power, 65% less power, 70% less water, and 90% less nutrients in the growing it. Our same strategy is towards packaging. If we had our way, we'd have Health Canada provide us the opportunity to use compostable products with a child-resistant lid on it. We just haven't got there yet, but we're continuing to push as an industry to go that way. I'd love to see a packaging that you could throw it in your compost and be gone in 12 weeks. That's our approach.
Well, still lots of room to grow, that's for sure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you for being here.